What if Africa has one president, one currency, no borders between countries, one parliament, one military command? To many people, those ideas sound impossible. To others, they represent the only path toward Africa finally taking control of its own destiny. Those were the bold proposals made by South African opposition politician Julius Malema during his keynote address at the Nigerian Bar Association's annual conference, general conference in Enugu, Nigeria. Now, before you click away, before many of you click away because you disagree with Julius Malema politically, hear me out. I know that many people have serious disagreements with Julius Malema, including myself. Some criticize his rhetoric, others disagree with his political parties, his economic policies. Still others believe he has become one of the most polarizing figures in South African politics. Those criticisms are legitimate, but sometimes even people we disagree with make arguments that deserve serious consideration. And on the issue of African unity, self-reliance, and reducing dependency on foreign powers, Malema has raised questions that Africa can no longer ignore. Today we are going to examine those ideas, not through the lens of party politics, but through the lens of Africa's future. Speaking before lawyers, judges, policymakers, business leaders, and academics in Enugu, Malema laid out an ambitious vision for Africa. He suggested that Africa should have one presidency, one African presidency, one African parliament, one African military command, a borderless Africa where Africans can travel freely without visas. For some observers, these proposals sounded radical. But if you study African politics, you will know that these ideas are not new. For more than 60 years ago, Ghana's first president, Kwame Nkrumah, argued that Africa could never achieve its full potential unless it united politically. Former Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi also championed a united state of Africa. Even today, the African Union speaks about continental integration through Agenda 2063. The African Continental Free Trade Area seeks to create the world's largest free trade area. The African Passport Initiative seeks to make travel easier for Africans. The Pan-African Parliament already exists. The African Centers for Disease Control and Prevention coordinates continental responses to public health emergencies. So while a single African president may sound ambitious, the journey toward greater integration has already begun. It has already begun. So why this conversation matters? Why this conversation matters now? Timing is everything. Okay, today is July 7th is I think the African Union Day or something like that. Malema's speech comes at the moment when Africa is once again being reminded of the danger of depending too heavily on foreign aid. Only months ago, President Donald Trump dismantled USAID, that is the United States Agency for International Development. Across Africa, hospitals, health programs, and humanitarian organizations suddenly faced uncertainty. Many people condemned the decision. I understood that, and I understood why. Lives were affected. Important programs lost funding. But at the same time, I argue sometimes things that many people disagree with. I said that dismantling the USAID could become one of the best things to happen to Africa in the long run. Not because I oppose humanitarian assistance, not because I celebrated people losing services, but because Africa cannot continue building essential public services on money controlled by foreign governments. That is simply not sustainable. Now the United States is returning with a different model. Instead of traditional aid, Washington is negotiating bilateral agreements directly with African governments. The message from the Trump administration has been remarkably clear. American aid will now advance American interests. Trump is a president who doesn't have his real intention. If he wants the oil, he says he wants the oil, like in Venezuela. Some agreements reportedly encourage the use of American pharmaceutical companies. Others involve broader strategic partnerships. Again, none of this should surprise anybody. The United States exists to advance American interests. China advances Chinese interests. Russia advances Russian interests. India advances Indian interest. The European Union advances European interest. So why shouldn't Africa advance African interests? That is the question Malema's speech forces us to ask. Africa is rich. So why is it that Africa still depends on other people? Think about this. Africa has more than 1.5 billion people. The continent possesses roughly 30% of the world's known mineral revenues or reserves. Some of the world's richest agricultural land Africa possesses. Huge deposits of carbon, lithium, magnesium, platinum, diamonds, gold, uranium, and rare earth minerals. It has the youngest population on Earth. Its combined economic is worth more than $3 trillion. Yet many African governments still rely on donors to fund hospitals, to buy medicines, to finance vaccination campaigns, to strengthen public health systems. That contradiction should concern every African. Natural resources, we always count natural resources on the continent of Africa. Natural resources alone do not create prosperity. Good governance does. Regional cooperation does. Investment in education does. Investment in manufacturing does. Investment in science does. Investment in healthcare does. African CDC shows what is possible. If anyone doubts Africa's ability to solve African problems, they should look at the African Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. During the COVID-19 pandemic, for those of you who don't know, the African CDC coordinated testing, disease surveillance, laboratory, networks, vaccine procurement, and technical assistance across the continent. Think about that for a little bit. Instead of waiting for others to lead, Africa build one of its own strongest continental institutions. Today, the CDC, Africa's CDC, is promoting local vaccine manufacturing with the goal of producing 60% of Africa's vaccines on the continent by 2040. Think about that for a little bit. That is exactly the kind of thinking Africa needs. Not permanent dependency, but permanent capacity. Now, the question is, could one African president work? Now, let's be realistic, okay? Could Africa elect one president tomorrow? No. Could 54 independent African countries abandon their currencies overnight? The answer is no. Could every border disappear immediately? Probably not. Even Europe, right, after decades of integration, still faces major challenges. Political union takes time. Economic integration takes time. Trust takes time. But impossible today does not mean impossible forever. Remember, there was once a time when Europeans fought devastating wars against one another. Today, many of them travel across borders without passports. Goods move freely. Businesses invest across national borders or boundaries. Common institutions exist. Africa can learn from both European successes and Israel's mistakes. What Africa should do first, in my own opinion, instead of focusing only on single presidency, African leaders should prioritize practical integration, strengthen the African continental free trade area, invest in railways connecting African economies, expand cross-border electricity network as they are doing through the West Africa, East African power pools, stuff like that. Build pharmaceutical industries, support African airlines, increase funding for African CDC, develop continental payment systems. All of these things I'm talking about, they exist to some extent. Invest in African universities, encourage scientific research, reduce dependency on imported manufactured goods, create jobs for young Africans. These are our achievable goals. Whether you admire Julius Malema or strongly oppose him is your personal decision. Politics will always divide people. But wisdom requires us to judge ideas on their merits. A good proposal does not become bad simply because it comes from the person we dislike. Likewise, a bad proposal does not become good because it comes from the person who presented it that we admired. I personally disagree with Julius Malema. Malema has challenged Africans to think beyond colonial borders, to imagine a continent that negotiates with the world from a position of strength rather than dependency. That conversation is long overdue. That conversation is long overdue. For decades, Africa has often been viewed through the lens of aid, charity, dependency. But the 21st century demands a different vision, a continent that finances its own development, manufactures its own medicine, trade freely with itself, protects its own security, adds value to its own natural resources, and speaks with stronger, more unified voice on a global stage. Will Africa eventually have one president? Perhaps not in our lifetime. Will it have one currency? That remains uncertain. But one thing is absolutely clear. Africa's future will not be determined in Washington, D.C. here in the United States. Will not be determined in Brussels in Europe. Will not be determined in Beijing in China. It must be determined in Addis Ababa, Abuja, Namibia, Nairobi, Pretoria, Accra, Kigali, Cairo, Monrovia, and every capital across our great continent. The sooner Africa embraces greater unity, stronger institutions, and self-reliance, the sooner it will take its rightful place in the world. The era of permanent dependency must come to an end. If Africa truly believes in the promise of Agenda 2063, and then perhaps Julius Malema's speech is more than a political address. Perhaps it is a reminder that the continent's greatest resource has been never been beneath the soil. It has always been its people. Folks, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the discussion, don't forget to like, subscribe to this channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think that Africa should eventually have one president, one currency, and open borders? Or should African countries pursue pursue integration while maintaining full national sovereignty? Let's continue this discussion. Folks, my name is Pico Kanwe, and you're watching When the Dust Settles. Bye for now.